everybody, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and today I just finished watching the Book of Boba Fett, episode 5. Wow. Okay, first, obviously, full spoilers. I'm just going right into it, so yeah, obviously watch the episode first. Okay. Wow, where do I even start? Okay, so at the end of last episode of Boba Fett, we heard at the very end some music, some Mandalorian music from, the Mandalorian show, and everyone's like, okay, so Mando is showing up in this episode of Book of Boba Fett, right? Like this next episode, and he's gonna help them fight the Pikes and all this stuff, right? What nobody predicted, what no one knew, is that effectively what we just got was the first episode of Mando season 3. Like this literally could have been season 3 episode 1, and that's what this episode was, because it didn't just like have him show up and then like continue his story a little bit. It made it made like a lot of important like plot things happen for his story in this episode. This was basically just a Mandalorian episode, which, yeah, no one saw that coming. Boba Fett did not show up at all in this episode of the Book of Boba Fett, which is insane. And look, I know that the show so far has had like, it's what would you say? It's ebbs and flows, right? Like there's some episodes that everyone loves, and then there's other episodes that everyone hates, and it seems to have gone back and forth this entire season. And I think that undoubtedly this is going to end up being everyone's favorite episode. Now, does that, I know a lot of people are going to take that and they're going to be like, okay, so the episode where Boba Fett doesn't show up at all is everyone's favorite episode of this show. And I know that seems weird, but look, the show's not over. We got 2 more episodes. Obviously, they're gonna team up in the next couple episodes and fight the Pikes and all that stuff, right? But I mean, yeah, a surprising amount of important plot stuff happened that moved the plot forward, not for Boba Fett, but for an entirely different character. But because it has so much forward progression in the story, yeah, I can't help but be like, this was my favorite episode that just happened by coincidence to not have Boba Fett in it. Feels kind of weird to say, but that's how it played out. But also, I think this also kind of goes to the fact of like, if you are a Mandalorian fan, but you're like, no, I don't really care about the Boba Fett show, it's like, no, you have to watch this all. You have to. Because stuff like this happens where now when Mando season 3 starts and you didn't watch Book of Boba Fett, you're gonna be like, what the fuck is happening? You're gonna be like, where's that ship? What happened to his clan now? What's going on? And all this other stuff. Okay, so let's jump into it. So yeah, like I said, this is effectively just a Mandalorian episode. We're with Din Djarin the entire time. And yeah, it starts off, and I love what they did here is that they have him on a bounty job, right? A bounty hunter job where he goes into like this meat processing plant, and he takes out the boss there for the bounty, and he gets in an epic fight. He takes out the Darksaber, and he does pretty good for the most part, but they definitely emphasize that he is not trained with a sword, a blade. Like, he's not trained with this, and especially because there's one point during the fight where his hand gets knocked downward and the blade slices his own leg. And I gotta tell you, it looked like when you slice, when you're cutting a steak, and it's just like that slice of steak is gone. That was his leg. And I was like, oh my god. And that's the thing, like they're emphasizing like, this is why force wielders use lightsabers, because stuff like this happens to normal people. They try to use a lightsaber, they're gonna cut their own damn leg off, right? Like right away. So I love that they put that in there, because it's like, yeah, this is what would happen. He has not trained with this blade at all. He doesn't have the force. If he at least had the force, you could be like, okay, he'll at least not cut his own damn arm off, right? But no, he's just a guy. He's just a normal guy, and he's gonna hurt himself. But he does manage to take out everyone, and it's pretty brutal, by the way. He cuts the damn dude in half, and then he cuts his head off. It's off screen, but yeah, he cut his head off and he put it in a bag, and he's just walking around with his head in a bag. It's crazy. But basically he did this job so that way he would know where the Mandalorians are hiding, and it is his own clan from Navarro, I think was the planet. And yeah, basically it is his clan from back in season 1, who we haven't seen in a while, and the armorer is there, and what's his name, Paz Vizsla, the big Mandalorian guy. Those two seem to be the only two that are alive. And yeah, a lot of important stuff happens here. So first, they melt down the spear, right? They're like, okay, the spear, you don't need that, you got the Darksaber. And he has something made for Grogu, right? The small foundling, right? And they kind of go over, like, you know, the armor's like, well, in order to learn the ways of the Force, the Jedi have to let go of all attachments, right? And then he's like, well, I'm gonna see Grogu. And he didn't say this, but she tells the story of what was his name? The original Vizsla, Tar Vizsla? I think it was Tar Vizsla. Anyways, who, you know, made the Darksaber and was both Mandalorian and Jedi. And I think that's essentially what Din's kind of idea is, like, okay, well, he's Jedi, but he can also be Mandalorian, because he points out that, like, the Jedi creed is the complete opposite of the Mandalorian creed. The Mandalorian's all about attachment and family and loyalty to, like, this group collective. You know, whereas the Jedi are like, no, you gotta let go of all your connections, and you gotta, you know, you gotta let go of all you fear to lose, you know, all that stuff, right? So it's interesting. Like, I think that's essentially the idea is here, that Grogu's gonna be just like Tar Vizsla, both Mandalorian and Jedi. But yeah, so he's got the Darksaber, and he you know, he even has like a conversation with Paz Vizsla here, you know, who, you know, I knew immediately, like, the second they're telling the story and the camera cuts to Paz Vizsla, I'm like, oh my god, this guy's gonna try and take the saber, because it's his clan, the Vizsla clan, that originally had the Darksaber. So of course this guy's gonna start something, which, yes, he ends up starting something, right? You know, Din is trying to train with the armor and how to wield the saber, which I'm glad they did this, right? He's like, the saber's getting heavier, which lightsabers are supposed to be heavy, right? So, like, yeah, it makes sense that, like, you get a couple good swings and then, like, you're gonna get tired real fast because this thing's heavy to swing around. And he kind of learns not to fight the blade while he's using it, and he gets in a fight with Paz Vizsla, who's like, I'm gonna claim the Darksaber here. And the fight's pretty brutal. Like, at one point, Paz Vizsla's just, like, knocking his head into giant metal beams, and he picks up the Darksaber, and he's gonna kill Din, which is crazy, because I feel like he didn't have, you know, it wasn't like a fight to the death situation, but he was, like, gonna kill him for real. But of course, Din ends up getting the better hand of it, and the armorer does her thing where she tries to calm down the fight, which is very much like the very first episode of Mandalorian, and this is like the same situation. Those two have, you know, butted heads before, you know, where she's like, okay, you know, have you ever taken your helmet off for anyone? This is the way, all that stuff. And then she asks Din that question, and he says yes, because it's like, yeah, he has. And then she's like, well, then you're not a Mandalorian anymore. And he's essentially kicked out of the club. He takes back the Darksaber and he leaves. You know, so now instead of having a spear, now he has this little gift for Grogu, which we don't know what it is. We don't know what they turned the spear into, but it's a small little bag. So we'll find that out at some point. And yeah, so now he's kicked out of the club, and I love that they did this, because effectively what they're showing is that, like, his time with Grogu, it's not something that he can just go back from. You know, he's not going to be able to just start collecting bounties, go back with the Mandalorian clan, this is the way, all that stuff. It's like, no, you took off your helmet, you formed this connection, you know, by this group of Mandalorians, by their standards, you're not a Mandalorian anymore. But of course, he knows that Bo-Katan's out there, and he actually talks about Bo-Katan, and they do address the fact that, you know, she's like, oh, see, the blade has to be won by combat. Bo-Katan was gifted it, and that was a curse on our nation. And the only reason our clan survived was that we were on the moon of Concord Dawn or whatever, right? Or Concord Dawn, right? Not Concordia. Yeah. Anyways, and then they do like a little visual. Oh, and I love this sequence. They do this visual. It was like the Terminator. It was like those like sequences from the future of Terminator, where they show Mandalore just being bombed to hell with like 1,000 TIE bombers, and then all these like K2SO units are just like doo, like the Terminator. It was so amazing. You see all the Mandalorian helmets on the ground. And that's the other thing I gotta say about this episode. I can definitely see where a lot of the budget went. Like a lot of the show so far obviously has been on Tatooine, and they've used a lot of the same sets and a lot of the same stuff. This episode was like, all right, here's all the new stuff. Look at this giant rotating ring city, which I think we might have seen this before, but it's like a city that's on a giant ring around the sun, and the sun just like it goes from like day to night like within a couple minutes. I feel like we've been here before. It looks familiar, or maybe I'm thinking of an entirely different series, but it definitely looks like a thing that I've seen before. But anyways, yeah, so Mando, he's kicked out of his own crew essentially. Because they only believe there's only one way, because Bo-Katan's stuff didn't work out. She didn't follow the way. Her clan lost their way, which now leads me to believe that he's probably gonna go hook up with Bo-Katan again. Not hook, I mean like meet up with them. He's probably gonna be like, hey, you know what, you guys are all still Mandalorians, you take your helmets off, you don't care about that. Let's all of us work together. Maybe my original crew will eventually come around to this idea, but they're very much set in their ways, and I kind of just got kicked out of their whole thing. So yeah, he's pretty much on his own, but he goes to Tatooine. There's a lot of funny sequences here where he has to give up his weapons, and we see a lot of little cameos and so many Easter eggs. I gotta watch all of this again. So many little things. But he goes to Tatooine on like a commercial flight. He has to give up all his weapons, and he goes there because the mechanic lady, I forget her. I know it's Amy Sedaris, Amy Sedakis, something like that. I know that's the actor. I forget the actual character's name. But the mechanic lady, who we've seen on Tatooine several times, basically she called him there because she's like, I got a replacement for the Razor Crest, which, yes, it ends up being an N1 starfighter, the Naboo starfighter, which that was something that was rumored. That rumor showed up several places over the last couple of weeks, and it turned out to be true. So I even posted this on Twitter. I was like, oh, he'll have a yellow ship. Winky face. It's like, yeah, because I've heard that rumor, and it turned out to be true. He had the N1 starfighter. Also, we see a BD droid from Jedi Fallen Order, which we see it show up, and I was like, oh cool, it's here, and then it immediately gets attacked, and I was like, no. So that was funny. But yeah, so basically there's a long sequence where they're putting the ship back together, and they're making all these modifications, and they're doing all kinds of stuff to it. And there's this awesome sequence of him like doing a test flight, and he's flying around, and he gets stopped by some X-wings, but he managed to get out of there, which we get cameos from one of the X-wing pilots we've seen before. And then there's a new X-wing pilot guy. I don't know, I'm sure that this guy was also supposed to be a cameo, but to be honest, I don't recognize his face. I don't know who that was. But yeah, so he gets stopped by 2 X-wings. He blasts off, right? They thought he went to hyperspace. He's like, no, that was his sublight engines. He's really freaking fast. So he's basically got just like this Fast and Furious style N1 starfighter that's like crazy, customized, and so they land again, and then we see Fennec Shand has shown up asking for Mandalorian, saying like, hey, Boba Fett needs your help. I got a job for you. And he says, he's like, I'll do it on the house. Don't even bother paying me. But I'm gonna go see I have to go see a small friend first, which is interesting. So he's on Tatooine already, and they're asking for his help, and he says he has to go see his small friend first. So I guess we are getting Grogu to show up, I guess. I don't know. It feels like the situation with the Pikes is pretty dire, right? Like they're here, they're already moving spice. Boba's got to go to war. And he's like, okay, I'll help you guys, but I gotta go see Grogu first. But so I'm wondering, like, does he know where Grogu is? What's his plan here? Because is he gonna go see Grogu and then come all the way back to Tatooine? I mean, he's already here. It kind of feels like he should just do this first, right? I don't know. But yeah, we're gonna find out what they made Grogu. It had some Beskar chains to it. So I was almost like, is this like some chainmail or something? I kind of wanted it to be a helmet, but maybe that would be too ridiculous. But in any case, yeah, so a lot of stuff happened with Mando. He's got a new ship. He lost his spear, but he made a gift with Grogu, and he got kicked out of his Mandalorian club, but that's okay because he's still got the Darksaber, and now everyone knows he has the Darksaber, or at least those two do. And I have to imagine that he's gonna go back with Bo-Katan Kryze's crew and be like, hey guys, you know what I mean? Like, my Mandalorians kicked me out. Let's go. I'm gonna hang out with you guys. I have to imagine that's what ends up happening. You know, or maybe he talks to Boba Fett. He's like, look, I know you didn't take any kind of pledge, and maybe you don't consider yourself a Mandalorian, but it is in your blood. You know, it's in a lot of different clones' blood also, but it's part of who you are. You know what I mean? Like it or not, you're Mandalorian too, man. Let's, you know, help me out. Let's go do this. So yeah, a lot of stuff to break down. This is one I'm definitely gonna watch again, and yeah, it definitely feels like it's very unexpected way, but it is kind of what everyone wanted it to be. It's you know, big cameos, lots of plot development, plenty of action, lore. You know, questions have been answered that we've been wondering for a while about, like Bo-Katan was gifted the thing, but that, I don't, you know, how did that work out? You know, we got flashbacks from Mandalore, which was crazy. We actually got to see Mandalore in live action, and it was like a Terminator flashback, which was amazing. So much great and awesome stuff, and wow, just this episode was crazy. And I know the narrative, a lot of people are going to be like, okay, so the best episode didn't have Boba Fett in it at all. And you know, look, I think that was just for the sake of, like, all of these shows are interconnected. If you want to watch the Boba Fett, I'm sorry, if you want to watch the Mandalorian, and you want to see where all of this is heading towards, and how, you know, all this is gonna, you know, come up to like an Avengers style team up thing, you have to watch Boba Fett, and you probably have to watch Ahsoka, and maybe not Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan's kind of like a separate thing that took place in the past, but you know what I mean. You have to watch all of these different shows that they're coming out with, because they're all going to start tying together, and you're going to see stuff like this episode where the main character of a completely different show had major plot development and character beats happen in a different show. You know, it's like, so, you know, you can't just watch the Mandalorian show, because now it's like all this stuff happened and you don't know that it happened. You know, so yeah, this was fascinating. This was a pretty awesome, amazing episode, and I think we're here. I think we're at this moment now where everyone's like hype level just went way up. You know, maybe that ends up being a bad thing, but right now I'm really happy, really excited. I can't wait for this next episode. You know, we got 2 episodes left. Who else is gonna show up? What else is gonna happen? You know what I mean? Grogu, I guess we're getting a Grogu scene at some point, right? He's gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna get my brand new N1 starfighter. I'm gonna blast off, go find Grogu, give him my little gift. I have to assume, this is the big question, I have to assume that if he's seeing Grogu, then we're gonna see Luke Skywalker again, right? Like, how else could that possibly work? He can't just show up on a planet and Grogu is by himself, right? Like, that wouldn't make any sense. Like, someone's, like Luke or somebody, I don't know who else it would be, but Luke has to be with Grogu, right? How else could this situation possibly work out? So, guys, I think it's happening. I think we're gonna see Luke Skywalker. I know, and look, I know there's gonna be some people out there that are like, oh my god, the Book of Boba Fett show just got completely taken over because now there's Mando and then there's Grogu and now there's Luke Skywalker. But look, as far as I'm concerned, this is all just one big TV show. I know they're called two different TV shows, and this is one TV show and this is a different TV show, but just like with the Avengers movies and all the Marvel movies, you might as well just consider this all just one long TV show. Start with Mando season 1, and now we're on Book of Boba Fett. It's all just one big thing. It's one story. So yes, Luke Skywalker's gonna show up, and it's gonna feel like, oh, he stole the show, kind of. It's like, okay, but it's all one story, you know? Like, Boba Fett will show up again, Mando will show up again, everyone's gonna show up again. It's all gonna happen. It's all these wires are looping around each other, tying into each other, crossing over. This is how it is, you know? I'm really, really excited. The possibilities for this show just like blew up. This show has been so self-contained, and it feels like it's been like it feels like it's just been one big bottle episode. Like, we're just in this one location doing our thing, you know, we're gonna see a couple people and we're just here on Tatooine and that's it. But now it, like, in just one episode, it's like the scope of the show just like exploded. Now it's like, okay, now we can literally go anywhere, do anything. Luke Skywalker is probably going to show up, because if you've seen Grogu, how is Luke not going to be involved? At least for one scene, right? At least for one small scene, I think Luke Skywalker kind of has to show up. Oh man, just it's insane what just happened. So I don't know, I'm really excited. Let me know how you guys feel. Wow, that was awesome. All right, I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye.